मैं ना बहुत बीमार हूँ, कुछ नज़र भी नहीं आ रहा और कोई मदद नहीं कर रहा मेरी। तू मेरा इकलौता बेटा है, यहाँ गांव में कोई डॉक्टर भी नहीं है। आजा बेटा, अपनी माँ को संभाल ले।
अम्मा, मैं अगले हफ्ते आ सकता हूँ। बॉस छुट्टी नहीं देगा और सैलरी भी काट लेगा।
तो फिर सीधा मेरी कब्र पे आ जाना। अगले
अच्छा।
हफ्ते तक तेरी माँ नहीं बचती।
अम्मा।
अल्लाह हाफिज।
अम्मा, मैं कुछ करता हूँ। चलिए रुके, मैं कोशिश करता हूँ मैं आने की। यार, अगर ये ऑनलाइन कंसल्टेंसी वाला सीन अगर ऑन हो जाए तो कितना अच्छा हो जाए, लेकिन मुझे कुछ पता ही नहीं है इसके बारे में। कोई है जो हमें बताएगा इसके बारे में?
एब्सोल्युटली, हमारे पास हमारे मेहमान हैं जो कि हमें इस प्रोसेस के बारे में बताएंगे। उस कंसल्टेंसी, ऑनलाइन कंसल्टेंसी जिसका जिक्र कर रहे हैं, उसके बारे में हमें बताएंगे। हमारे पास एक पैनल है जो कि इस चीज़ को डिस्कस करेगा। जैसे हम टेक्नोलॉजिकल इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर की बात कर रहे थे, द चैलेंजेस दैट पीपल फेस इन रूरल एरियाज, फार फ्लंग एरियाज, और उन चैलेंजेस को कैसे बहुत ईजिली काउंटर किया जा सकता है, ओवरकम किया जा सकता है यूजिंग टेक्नोलॉजी, इज़ द पर्पस ऑफ टुडेज हेल्थ टेक समिट। आप सबका बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया। खाने के बाद आप लोग वापस आए। यू एंजॉयड द म्यूजिकल परफॉर्मेंस। आई एम नाउ गोइंग टू इनवाइट द मॉडरेटर ऑफ आवर नेक्स्ट सेशन, which is on telemedicine. I would request Chief Digital Officer of CCL Pharma, Mr. Rizwan Tivana, to please come up stage to take the stage and invite his panelists. Ladies and gentlemen, a big round of applause to Mr. Rizwan Tivana.
Thank you. Thank you all. जो सर्वे हमने कंडक्ट किया था समिट से पहले, 78% of our respondents don't prefer remote engagement with care setup. 78%. The panelists I have are going to challenge that number because they have taken the leap of faith to digitalize the healthcare experience or the patient journey. They have addressed it from different engagements. We'll focus on engagement with the patient or the end customer, and we'll focus on the engagement with HCP. So we'll have solution providers who are addressing that. So without further ado, let me welcome four incredible people who will take us through their experience of engaging in our healthcare industry digitally. Mr. Murtaza Khalil Hassan, CEO and Country Manager, Bima. Dr. Iffat Zafar Agha, Co-founder and Chief Operating Officer, Sehat Kahani. Hamza Iqbal, CEO and Co-founder, HealthWire. And Dr. Saira Siddiq, CEO, MedIQ. Thank you very much. 78% people that we reached out to do not prefer remote engagement. McKinsey, on the other hand, says that 20% of the healthcare spend can be virtualized. Their study shows that 78% people are now, post-COVID, more interested in engaging digitally or having a remote engagement as compared to 11% people before that. Let me start with Dr. Iffat Zafar Agha. What is your view on the acceptability of remote engagement?
आई थिंक आपका बड़ा इंटरेस्टिंग क्वेश्चन है और आपने जो रिसर्च नंबर्स प्रेजेंट किए हैं, तो जो लोग जो यहाँ बैठे हैं, सेहत कहानी एक टेलीमेडिसिन प्लेटफॉर्म है और हम इंश्योर करते हैं कि इट्स अ मल्टी पॉपुलेशन बेस्ड अप्रोच वेयर एनीवन कैन एक्सेस टेलीमेडिसिन। और हम ये जो अर्बन पॉपुलेशन है, आपके और मेरे जैसे लोग, उन्हें हम थ्रू अ स्मार्टफोन एक्सेस देते हैं। बट एट द सेम टाइम हम ये समझते हैं कि बहुत सारी पॉपुलेशन पाकिस्तान की अभी भी एक ऐसे तबके से बिलोंग करती है जो या तो स्मार्टफोन का एक्सेस नहीं रखते, या अगर एक्सेस रखते हैं तो वो इतने लिटरेट नहीं है कि वो समझ सकें। एंड दैट्स व्हेन वी क्रिएटेड टेलीमेडिसिन इनेबल्ड क्लिनिक्स इन लो इनकम कम्युनिटीज़ फैसिलिटेटेड बाय नर्सेज। मेरे तजुर्बे में शुरू में दुश्वारी थी, लोगों को समझ नहीं आता था हम कंसल्टेशन करेंगे कैसे, बट आई थिंक क्योंकि हमने अप्रोच इस तरह की बनाई कि अगर आप कम्युनिटी बेस्ड हैं, आपके पास एक नर्स है जो आपको गाइड करेगी, आपको कनेक्टिविटी में मदद करेगी, आपको एक्चुअली इनेबल करेगी कि आप एक डॉक्टर से कंसल्ट कर सकें। अगर आप एक अर्बन पॉपुलेशन बेस्ड हैं, ना सिर्फ आप एक डॉक्टर को कंसल्ट कर सकते हैं, आप किसी भी वक्त फंसते हैं, रात के 3 बजे, रात के 4 बजे, एक 24/7 हेल्पलाइन मौजूद है जो कि आपको गाइड करेगी इन कनेक्टिंग टू अ डॉक्टर। आपकी कंसल्टेशन मिस हो गई, डॉक्टर की अपॉइंटमेंट किसी भी तरह से मिस हो गई, वो हेल्पलाइन आपको कॉल करेगी नो मैटर व्हाट टाइम ऑफ द डे इज़, जस्ट टू मेक श्योर कि आप कनेक्ट कर सकें एक डॉक्टर से दोबारा। तो आई थिंक जहाँ चैलेंजेस हैं वहाँ उनकी मिटिगेशन पे जब आप काम करते हैं तो लोगों को समझ भी आना शुरू होती है। कोविड की वजह से लोग एक्चुअली अब घबराते हैं हॉस्पिटल जाने से, ख़ास तौर पे अगर आपके घर में एल्डरली लोग हैं, बुज़ुर्ग हैं, बच्चे हैं, you don't want to expose them unnecessarily to a hospital and you actually would prefer that you could speak to a doctor at home only. 2 चीज़ें बस मैं कह के एंड ख़त्म करूँगी। हम सब कहीं ना कहीं अपनी ज़िंदगी में टेलीमेडिसिन करते रहे हैं, तो आज से 10 साल पहले, 5 साल पहले, 8 साल पहले हम सबका कोई दोस्त, रिश्तेदार, जानने वाला डॉक्टर ज़रूर होता है जिसे हम कॉल करते हैं, यार ये हो गया है। डॉक्टर को दिखा कर आएंगे फिर भी तसल्ली नहीं होती, रिपोर्ट उस दोस्त फ्रेंड को ज़रूर भेजते थे कि यार सही कह रहा है ये डॉक्टर, देखो ये दवाई दी है, ये सही बता रहा है। टेलीमेडिसिन ने आके इस चीज़ को फॉर्मलाइज कर दिया। सेहत कहानी इस वक्त 8.5 लाख कंसल्टेशंस कर चुका है पिछले 5 सालों में। तो ये इस बात का सबूत है कि टेलीमेडिसिन कंसल्टेशन सिर्फ अर्बन पॉपुलेशन ही नहीं बल्कि रूरल पॉपुलेशन भी कर सकती है अगर आप ऐसे ज़राए बनाए जो उनके लिए एक्सेसिबल हों।
Dr. Rifat, you have adopted a hybrid model for the clarity of the audience here, that with a certain number of brick and mortar footprint and a hybrid experience of engagement there. Do you think that this can evolve towards a purely digital experience?
It can, absolutely. In fact, we have seen it change. मेरा आज का community का consumer कल का smartphone user है, internet user है, and now he can actually access the same service that he was accessing at a clinic from his home only. और जब ये अंडरस्टैंडिंग आती जाती है, जब अवेयरनेस आती जाती है, स्मार्टफोन का एक्सेस और यूजेज आ जाता है, then that person can actually easily convert to that entirely digital medium
Fair
also.
enough. Thank you. Coming to you, Hamza, you have started by addressing the other side of the equation, that is the HCP engagement. Please do share with us the experience that you have had and the challenges that you have faced in digitalizing the clinic environment of HCP.
Yeah, that's a really interesting question. So I think we have taken a very fundamental problem in the healthcare ecosystem head on, that is digitization of prescriptions or health records. I think when we started, there was a huge resistance. But what we've learned is that it's all about finding value, finding the right users who can use the software, who can build a lot of value, and finding workflows that can provide a lot of value. So when you crack that nut, you build a network effect. And the good thing about doctors is that they have very strong networks. So when you start penetrating them and give them value, I think digitization of the clinic becomes a lot easier. And telemedicine actually is an extension to that. So a doctor who uses an EMR for him or her to teleconsult is really easy. It's just a click of a button to start a call. But if they're not using an EMR, so I think it's a similar experience that they'll have, that, you know, even if they use WhatsApp or any other application to just connect on video call, but the wholly inclusive experience of, you know, telemedicine can only be there when the doctor uses an EHR.
But we have heard the panels before during the day where they have outlined various challenges primarily, that the doctors with flourishing practices are with an experience of 30, 35 years, experienced individuals about my age, where they, what has been your experience in terms of engaging with them?
Yeah, it's quite challenging. It's quite challenging. I think doctors, especially when they become consultants or when the practice increases, are generally in their 50s, 60s, and sometimes even 70s. And it gets very difficult for any company to get them on a software. You know, a lot of doctors that use our software, HealthWise is actually the first EHR that they're using. And it makes things very challenging. But I think the focus on user experience and building a localized product is very key. Anyone who's looking to digitize a doctor's practice has to focus on it. It's an entirely unregulated market. Every doctor likes to create a prescription in their own way. You know, they'll get fixated on the smallest issues.
Fair.
But that's how they are. You know, we cannot expect them to change, but what we can do is build a product that they need and have a good onboarding experience and be very aggressive in trainings. So, you know, we are even ready to train the receptionist even if they don't know how to use a computer. We'll get everything done.
Fair. Dr. Saira, you are again approaching the market from a consumer or the patient standpoint, improving the engagement of the patient in their patient journey. Do share with us the experience that you have had, both on the patient side and as well as on the HCP side.
Thank you. I think what we are trying to do is to bring everything close to the patient. Patient ke paas health services khud chal ke aaye rather than patient going to the health
Okay.
services itself. And the idea behind is that when everything can come to your home, including your laundry, to your groceries, to even अब तो बच्चों की एजुकेशन भी घर पे हो गई है, तो why not health care?
Fair.
But the question जो अभी तक हमने फेस किया था मार्केट में वो था कि the services are not integrated. You know, even if you get a teleconsultation, who is going to provide the medicine? Then the person has to step out again. Who is going to provide the lab? Who is going to have the secondary consultation or a referral to a hospital? So that's exactly the question is that if we don't connect the services, if we don't link the services and we don't provide an end-to-end solution to the consumer की stickiness कभी नहीं रहेगी.
Fair.
So you need to have multiple touch points within your solution, जिसपे customer एक दफ़ा आए, hook on हो जाए और उसके बाद उसको छोड़ के ना जाए. So हमारा experience ये था अगर आप customer को एक ही छत के नीचे बगैर घर को छोड़े हुए, उसको सारी services दे देते हैं, consumer की stickiness भी improve हो जाती है और उसको कहीं और जाने की ज़रूरत नहीं होती है. That is one side of it. But there are other consumers who are coming from different B2B angle as well. Insurance companies हो जाएं, corporate sectors हो जाएं, ultimate user तो consumer है. So why don't you use those platforms to engage with the customers, to have more stickiness? So इसकी वजह से जो है, I think the approach which you used was more of an integrated, holistic approach for treating the customer under one umbrella, and secondly using those customers who are, you know, supported by a certain organization, certain insurance company, जिसकी stickiness improve होती है क्योंकि आपको early adopters चाहिए होते हैं.
Fair.
Early adopters वही होते हैं जिनके पीछे कोई ना कोई एक institutional mechanism हो. So that's our approaches, and that's the reason we call ourselves to be one-stop solution for everything. It's like a virtual care platform integrating the customer, the companies, and the service providers.
Exciting. Thank you. Good that you mentioned insurance. Murtuza, you are again targeting insurance, unlike the other segment in the market, where you are digitalizing the experience of onboarding and service delivery, integrating the strength that we have in the network layer, so to speak. Please enlighten us in terms of the experience that you have had in taking it to market.
Thank you very much. First of all, thanks Ali for arranging this. I think it's a remarkable event. And I'd also like to say that we're proud to be the lead sponsor for this session. I'd like to go back a bit and address the question or the data which you mentioned on 78% people say that they don't prefer telemedicine first. And then I'll give a bit of the experience as well. So when Bima started in 2015, we had a handful of customers. Now we have around 4.2 million customers. That puts us in a unique position to actually survey some of those customers and find out what's exactly ticking or what they are feeling or what they are actually thinking about. And that helps us actually serve them better. So when we look at the analysis that 78% people don't prefer telemedicine, we have actually in Bima done similar analysis to see what changes their preference. So a very interesting fact which I can share with this audience is that when people don't experience telemedicine, their interest or their preference for telemedicine is only 6%. And when Bima checked the preference of the people who have actually experienced it, even once, that preference jumps up to 60%. Since we have around 25 million customers across the globe in 9 markets, and we just don't call ourselves an insurance company right now, and we're not an insurance company, we actually want to position ourselves as a telemedicine company which also offers insurance.
Okay.
So from that perspective, it seems that it's extremely important for people to actually experience the product, and then their preference will get developed. And one of the things which we have seen over the years is that when you see that when you have around 25,000 or 30,000 consultations every month, so that again puts you in a good position to understand the customer better. And one of the ways why we have been able to penetrate, coming to your last question, is why we have been able to penetrate in the market is because Bima being present in 9 markets, being a Swedish company, we give special emphasis on the customer and what the customer is thinking, and then adapt ourselves. So we've got, like, for example, 5 coaching programs or in fact health advice programs. So we just don't give the telemedicine, we also give health advice. You can select from women and children health, you can select from staying healthy, diabetes and hypertension. So these are some of the programs that we've developed based on WHO guidelines. And we provide these health advice across as well. So we've discovered that the customer doesn't just need maybe insurance, the customer doesn't just need telehealth consultation, they also like advice or rely on that advice. Coming back earlier to the conference where somebody said that it would be great that if doctors are paid for people just to stay healthy. So again, this health advice actually helps and support that initiative. So I think these are some of the things we've done to actually ensure that we penetrate in the market. Since last 5
Building
years.
on to the number that you provided, that 4.2 million customers, very healthy number. What are you doing with the data that you're gathering from these customers? And what are you doing presently? And if you can shed some light on how do you see the usage of that data evolving over time?
It's an interesting question. I think data can allow us as an ecosystem to really move forward. So for example, and I was discussing this with my Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Hina Ghole, who's with us. And one of the things we discussed was that if we have data across the industry or across Pakistan on the behavior of the customer with regards to telehealth consultation and also with regards to the different medicines that they require, what we could do, in fact, is build a model which can help the government, for example, even predict how the different epidemics are taking place and how pharmaceutical companies can better address those concerns and respond to that. So I think data is something which can definitely help us in providing an overall response to such issues which occur within Pakistan and help us actually handle them better.
Dr. Saira, if you had visibility of the data which Bima is gathering and is able to provide analytics on it, what use cases would come to your mind in terms of improving the experience that you are providing to the end customer?
I think Bima has been in the market for a very long time, so they have a huge data. We are also collecting data from the field, from the customers whom we are treating. So यहाँ पे एक चीज़ I would like to highlight here that one of the reasons शायद initially जो teleconsultation was not that acceptable, or it was more of a front-end play. You know, an interaction with the doctor and the patient is happening, and that's it, a prescription is coming up. The back-end play with the data, with the storage of the electronic medical records, with the use of the data to provide insight to the pharmaceutical industry or to the insurance sector or to the government wasn't there. So what we tried to build was not only a front play, just make the customer or patient ki interaction ho rahi hai with health service providers, but also giving them a central repository for storing their data as EMR. Also to keeping their whole data of interaction with the with us in the form of a customer journey. So both the front end and the back end are equally important. और उसको हमें ज़हन में रखना है. And use cases, I think, what we are doing in Pakistan is not anything which hasn't happened in anywhere else in the world.
True.
People are doing it. People are utilizing their data in different way. इससे आप predictive modeling कर सकते हैं, आप epidemics को की early prediction कर सकते हैं, आप prevention के programs बना सकते हैं, आप treatment programs बना सकते हैं, आप drug interactions देख सकते हैं. इस data का तो इतना huge usage है कि अगर हमारे पास वो data आ जाए तो just like gold, it's a gold mine which we are sitting on right now. The only issue is we are not extracting that gold properly so that it can be used in development of something very good. But the use cases are there from the world.
Dr. Ifat, you wanted to add something?
I think the best thing that is happening with this data is कि आज मेरे प्लेटफॉर्म में कोई पेशेंट आता है, सिस्टम प्रिडिक्ट कर सकता है कि अच्छा आज 3 साल बाद 4 साल बाद फॉर एग्जांपल इस पेशेंट को डायबिटीज़ होगी या हाइपरटेंशन होगा. सो सिस्टम ऑटो जनरेट कर सकता है प्रिवेंटिव मैसेजिंग टू दैट पेशेंट ओनली, so that the patient knows, okay, this is something that I am actually prone of, मुझे इन चीज़ों से प्रिवेंट करना है. सो जहाँ हम गवर्नमेंट की बात करते हैं, गवर्नमेंट के लिए तो बहुत वैल्यूएबल है ये डेटा. इंडिविजुअल बेसिस पर फॉर वन पेशेंट ऑल्सो दिस कैन इम्प्रूव सो मैनी लाइव्स. इंश्योरेंस के साथ हम सब टेलीमेडिसिन कंपनीज काम कर रही हैं, इंश्योरेंस सेक्टर के साथ और कॉर्पोरेट सेक्टर के साथ भी. आई थिंक वन वैल्यू दैट इट रियली एड्स is that over a longer period that can really reduce the claim ratio. So ओवरऑल एक इंश्योरेंस कंपनी का एक्सपेंडिचर जिन चीज़ों में हो रहा था वो ओवरऑल अगर आप पेशेंट की बिहेवियर चेंज करते हैं, ओवरऑल हेल्थ केयर को इम्प्रूव करते हैं विद टाइम, तो वो एक्सपेंसेस ना सिर्फ कम होंगे, एक अपॉर्चुनिटी बनती है कि हम उनको दूसरे एरियाज में इन्वेस्ट कर सकते हैं.
Fair. Hamza, you have a large amount of end customer data as well. Okay, not the same amount that Murtaza had, but reasonably close in my understanding. How are you utilizing it presently, and how do you plan, what evolution do you see, keeping in view the input that Dr. Saira and Dr. Ifat has provided?
Yeah, so I think at Healthfire, our core thesis is that the whole ecosystem converges on health records. So when a doctor prescribes a patient medicines or lab tests, or even if the patient is insured, the insurance companies come in. If they prescribe medicines, the pharmacies and pharmaceuticals come in, similar to labs. So if that interaction and that health record is created on our system, the first opportunity that we have is to connect that patient with every stakeholder of the ecosystem. So everything remains digital. Right now the patient goes to a doctor, gets some medicine scribbled on a piece of paper, and then goes to the pharmacy every month and goes to the lab physically, and the insurance claims process is all over the place as well. So this whole experience gets digital if that interaction is done on a software and that data is produced digitally. So that's the starting point for us. But I think moving down the road as more and more data populates, as Dr. Saira has mentioned, there is immense opportunity. But I think we need larger data sets for that. It's definitely a gold mine, predictive models, disease trends. I think you come from a pharmaceutical background, so all of that data from a pharmaceutical perspective is so valuable. I think the whole ecosystem can get immense value with that sort of data.
But the data set, and this question is for all of you, that the size of the data set is already reasonable. 4 million, about 3.5 million, nearly 1 million. Okay, certain number available with Dr. Saira as well. So, don't you think that this is a sizable data set to carry out the studies or analytics or prediction around pandemics or epidemics? Isn't that large enough already?
Yeah, it is. I think cumulatively it is.
Cumulatively.
Yeah, but I think if you take any single company in its own silo, like we actually have a lot of data, but it's geographically very spread. So we're in 60 cities, the EMR runs in 60 cities, so it's geographically very spread. So when we're looking at disease trends, so the sample size gets smaller in that city because it's the sample in that city is smaller. But definitely, I think a lot needs to be done. We as a company are very focused on utilizing that data. And cumulatively, I think there is a lot of potential. As earlier mentioned in the talk as well, labs produce a lot of digital data because most of the larger labs are all digital. So if we start talking with each other, I think then the value is immense.
I don't think there is a regulation that stops you from talking to each other. Dr. Saira.
I'll just add one point to it. Yes, we have a lot of data which is catered, but what about the quality of that data? Is it in a form that it can be utilized for certain analysis? Knowing that, because when I was unfortunately, I'm a medical graduate, but I did my PhD in health economics, so I'm a health economist. So when I was trying to do my thesis on even a data set, which was from Federal Bureau of Statistics, 10 सालों का एक cohort analysis था, I was surprised to see the quality of the data which I got. Yes, we have data, but is it in a form or shape where it can go into a machine learning or AI model to come up with something which is of value is the main question. So we have to decide about what minimum standards we will, there's no industry regulation for sure,
Yeah.
but we have to set the standards ourselves minimally कि हम इस तरह का data, इस quality का data, इन parameters को collect करेंगे तो हम कुछ useful information निकाल सकेंगे. That's a major issue in our case that we do. It's just like a, it's like a graveyard of data which we have. So it's not like a data which can be used to develop something good. But moving forward, yes, we can do that. We can standardize it.
Fair. Murtaza, I would assume that you would have developed your data set around the best practices that your parent company had. So would you have the same challenge in regards to the quality of data as Dr. Saira has pointed out?
So I think I'd like to take a slight step back because we're talking about data set, which is important definitely. But we also have a 220 million population right now. And in order to actually improve the quality of the data, we need to ensure that we give more access to the telehealth services to the majority of the population. Right now, one of the issues that a lot of the telehealth organizations have on this panel and out of this panel is that we have different partnerships, maybe with certain organizations, or we have different segments where we are actually approaching the customer. So we need to actually go beyond that and open up this space and reach out to the masses in Pakistan and have not just 4.5, but we should be talking about 50 million people onboarded on telehealth. And then the quality will also improve dramatically.
Fair. Building on Dr. Rifat on what Murtaza just said, that the engagements that you have cross-industry within the healthcare industry itself. We have pharmaceuticals here and the other stakeholders of the digital health ecosystem. What, as a co-founder of a digital health initiative, what support do you require from the audience to enhance the customer experience that you provide?
I think constant feedback is something which is very necessary. A lot of corporates are sitting here. We work actively with the corporate sector. We work actively with the insurance sector. And I think what has helped us in the past is active feedback from the consumer, that what has worked, what hasn't worked. I'd also like to share here the value and the importance of the doctor. आपने बात की कि एक certain age group doctors का शायद इतना active ना हो, पर आप एक चीज़ भूल रहे हैं कि एक बहुत engaging और active doctors का एक pool जो एक young upcoming consultant है, जो एक doctor है जो अभी बाहर से पढ़कर आया है या आई हैं या पाकिस्तान में अभी उन्होंने FCPS किया है. They are the emerging key opinion leaders who are very active, who are actually interested in gathering data, who are into research, जो ये समझते हैं कि जब मैं पेशेंट की हिस्ट्री भर रहा हूँ तो ये एक एक फील्ड क्यों अहमियत रखती है. तो आई थिंक इफ़ दैट इज़ अलाइंड करेक्टली, दैट रियली हेल्प्स इन ब्रिंगिंग आउट द ब्यूटी ऑफ द डेटा. हम जब इंश्योरेंस सेक्टर के साथ काम करते हैं या कॉर्पोरेट सेक्टर के साथ काम करते हैं, क्योंकि हम ऐसे डॉक्टर्स के साथ अब काम करें जो इस चीज़ की अहमियत को समझते हैं. सो हमारे पास एक लाइव डैशबोर्ड है जो रोज़ अपडेट होता है और हर कंपनी अपना एक बेसिक आइडिया ले सकती है कि किस शहर में सबसे ज़्यादा कंसल्टेशन हुई, किस डिजीज़ के लिए सबसे ज़्यादा हुई, किस जेंडर में सबसे ज़्यादा हुई. एंड दिस हैज़ बिन वन ऑफ आवर विनिंग फीचर्स एंड आई थिंक दैट इज़ समथिंग दैट adds a lot of value overall to how the organization is doing, किन diseases को हम ज़्यादा cater करें. तो आई थिंक दैट्स समथिंग हम जब फीडबैक लेते हैं, हम जब कॉन्स्टेंटली कंज्यूमर्स के साथ, लोगों के साथ इंगेज करते हैं, हम अंडरस्टैंड करते हैं कि क्या चीज़ है जो हम उन्हें नहीं दे पा रहे जो उन्हें चाहिए. एंड यू नो व्हाट इज़ दैट स्पेशलिटी मे बी, क्या डॉक्टर के बात करने के तरीके में एक चीज़ होनी चाहिए थी, क्या प्रिस्क्रिप्शन बहुत मुश्किल थी आसान होनी चाहिए थी, या बहुत आसान है और थोड़ी सी डिटेल्ड होनी चाहिए. सो आई थिंक constant feedback and just getting to know your customer really makes a difference.
Same question to you, Dr. Saira. What would be the key support that you'd look for from the audience or from the stakeholders of the healthcare ecosystem?
आई थिंक इट्स जो इशू मुझे यहाँ पर लग रहा है कि देखें हमारे यहाँ अभी जो एक तो जो आई स्टेप बैक अ बिट एंड जो 78% की बात हो रही थी, आई अज्यूम दैट इज़ बेसिकली अ डायरेक्ट कस्टमर हु इज़ जो B2C कस्टमर है
हाँ
जिसके है. सो हमारे यहाँ लोग जो हैं वो फॉलोअर ज़्यादा होते हैं, अर्ली अडॉप्टर्स कम होते हैं. सो मेरी ये रिक्वेस्ट होगी टू द स्टेक होल्डर्स जो कि अभी इस कमरे में मेरे ख्याल में सारे के सारे मौजूद हैं, from insurance to corporates to pharmaceutical companies, to encourage people to use these sort of services. It's not only good for the people but also for those organizations. For example, अगर हम एक pre-authorization का mechanism डाल देते हैं through teleconsultation for insurance company for their hospitalization product. It's utilization of telemedicine for insurance sector in addition to other services. अगर हम they're going to save a cost, huge amount of cost on their operations, and at the same time encourage utilization by normal people to for that sort of services. Similarly, for pharmaceutical companies, if they can have people interact with teleconsultant doctors to have advice or have some information on the side effects, तो लोगों को आदत डलेगी इन चीज़ों को यूज़ करने की. It will also save them resources. It will also create a trend among normal people.
Fair. So essentially, you are looking for more engagement. Okay, focused on particular areas that you have highlighted. Ali tells me that we have run out of time. So, concluding remark from Murtaza in terms of expanding the digital adoption of healthcare.
Sure. So, as I announced earlier as well, I think right now Bima is working on providing this access to more people in Pakistan across different payment platforms. So, it's very important that we provide different options to the customer to pay. Not everybody has balance in their SIM. They may want, for example, to pay through mobile wallets or credit cards or some other mechanism. So we need to provide that access, and also we need to look at our current market and give products which actually address them. A lot of companies have an age limit of 65 for health insurance and other products as well. We need to look at the reality of the market and see what sort of services do people actually need and want, and also include to take into account different cultural norms. For example, parents are extremely
Fair.
important here, and in-laws, etc. So to
Thank
add
you,
everything
Murtaza.
up, yeah.
Dr. Rifat,
I think telemedicine is here. हम
it's
2021
not going
की-
anywhere.
It's not going anywhere. 2021 की अगर हम बात करें तो $56 बिलियन की इन्वेस्टमेंट हुई दुनिया भर में. अगर हम सिर्फ इंडिया की बात करें तो $1.6 बिलियन की इन्वेस्टमेंट हुई इन द डिजिटल हेल्थ केयर स्पेस. सो दिस स्पेस इज़ हियर टू गो, it's here to stay. It doesn't mean that this will replace physical visits, but this is something which will go hand in hand, and this will actually increase the physical healthcare market also. So it's here to stay, and I think we all have to collectively build it and grow it together.
thank you. Hamza,
Yes, I think all of the stakeholders of the healthcare ecosystem are here. So my closing remark would be that digitization of health is the future. The faster that we do it, the quicker, telemedicine and all other plays would fall in place. So, from pharmaceuticals to insurance companies to even corporates, the faster we get and facilitate digitization, the quicker, telemedicine would adopt and all other healthcare business models would adopt.
Dr. Saira.
Well, I would just say one thing, in addition to what they have already said, is that let's not take telemedicine as a standalone service.
True.
Let's have an integrated service which ensures a continuum of care, revolving around the patient. Patient को center में रख के उसके आसपास services design कीजिए, so that patient in the end is the beneficiary of all those services.
Thank you very much. Thank you all. I would conclude by saying that I would like to visualize a scenario whereby I am a Sehat Kahani customer going to a healthcare HCP, getting medicines from Meds IQ while being insured by Murtaza's company Bima. And this in the environment that digital environment is quite possible. Okay, thank you all. And if I may invite Mr. Muhammad Ali Ahmed, Deputy Manager Director of EFU of Life, to distribute the shields. Assalamu alaikum. I'll read out the names. Dr. Saira Siddiq. Hamza Iqbal. Murtaza Khalil Hassan. Dr. Ifat Zafar Agha.
And a token of thanks to Mr. Rizwan Tivana. Big round of applause.